I spent 6 weeks hunting a serial killer who left mirrors at every crime scene. 6 weeks analyzing evidence, chasing leads, trusting my partner. Then I found the fifth mirror, and in its reflection, I finally saw the truth. The killer had been standing next to me the entire time. My name is Detective Marcus Stone. 23 years on the force, 15 years in homicide. I have walked through crime scenes that would make your blood run cold. But some cases stay with you. They burrow deep into your mind and refuse to let go. The mirror killer case was one of those. It started on a rain-soaked Tuesday in October, the kind of night where the city lights blur into streaks of neon and the streets smell like wet concrete and decay. I got the call at 2:17 a.m. Another body. Another victim. The fourth one in 6 weeks. The address led me to an abandoned warehouse in the industrial district, the kind of place where screams go unheard and secrets die in the darkness. When I arrived, the scene was already secured. Yellow tape, flashing lights, the usual circus. But nothing about this case was usual. The victim was a 32-year-old woman, marketing executive. No criminal record, no enemies that anyone knew of. She was found hanging from a steel beam. But here is where it gets disturbing. Her body was positioned in front of a massive mirror. Not just any mirror. An antique floor-length mirror with an ornate gold frame. And on that mirror, written in the victim's own blood, were 3 words: "You see me." This was the killer's signature. Every victim, every scene, always a mirror, always those 3 words: "You see me." The first victim was a college professor. The second, a nurse. The third, a retired police officer. Now this marketing executive, no connection between them. Different ages, different backgrounds, different parts of the city. The only link was the method: strangulation, mirrors, and that haunting message. The media went crazy. They called him the Mirror Killer. Headlines screamed about a serial killer stalking the city. People started covering their mirrors at night. Sales of security systems skyrocketed. Fear spread like a virus. But I knew something the media did not. Something we kept from the public. At each crime scene, the killer left a small object, a personal item that belonged to me. At the first scene, it was a photograph from my desk. At the second, a coffee mug from my office. At the third, a tie I had reported missing weeks earlier. And now, at this fourth scene, there was a key. The spare key to my apartment that I kept hidden in my desk drawer. The killer was not just taunting the police. He was taunting me specifically. This was personal. I started digging into my past. Every case I had worked, every criminal I had put away, every person who might have a grudge. The list was long. When you have been a detective for as long as I have, you make enemies. But none of them fit the profile. None of them had the access to my personal belongings. Then I noticed something, a pattern within the pattern. The dates of the murders corresponded with specific dates from my past. The first murder happened on the anniversary of my very first homicide case. The second murder was on the date I made detective. The third was the anniversary of my divorce. And this fourth murder, it was exactly 15 years to the day since I graduated from the police academy. Someone was recreating my timeline, marking the milestones of my career with blood. I became obsessed. I stopped sleeping, stopped eating properly. I covered my apartment walls with photographs, maps, timelines, red string connecting dots that only I could see. My partner, Detective Sarah Chen, tried to pull me back. She said I was too close to the case, that I needed to step away. But I could not. Every victim was a message meant for me. Every mirror reflected my failure to stop him. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A witness from the second crime scene came forward. She had been too scared to talk initially, but guilt finally brought her to the station. She described seeing someone leaving the area around the time of the murder. The description was vague. Average height, dark clothing, but she remembered one detail, a distinctive walk, a slight limp on the left side. That detail triggered something in my memory. I knew someone who walked like that, someone from my past. but my mind could not grasp it. It was like trying to remember a dream that fades the moment you wake up. I went back through old case files, stacks of folders, years of investigations. And then I found it. A case from 12 years ago. A domestic violence call that escalated. A man named Robert Vance. He had attacked his wife with a broken bottle. When I arrived, I had to tackle him to stop the assault. During the struggle, he fell wrong and shattered his kneecap. He walked with a limp after that. Vance served 8 years in prison. He was released 14 months ago, right before the murders started. I pulled his file, looked at his photograph, and my blood went cold, because Vance was not just angry at me. According to the prison psychiatrist's reports, he had developed an obsession. He blamed me for destroying his life, for the injury, for the prison time, for his wife leaving him. In his mind, I was the architect of all his suffering. But here is where it gets darker. Vance had not just been sitting in prison. He had been studying me, learning everything about my life, my career, my cases. The prison library gave him access. He read newspaper articles about my investigations. He tracked my professional history, and he planned his revenge. The profile made sense now. The mirrors were symbolic. He wanted me to see myself, to see what I had become, a detective who could not save the innocent, who could not stop the killer even when the killer was sending him personal messages. The mirrors were meant to reflect my failure. I knew where he would strike next. There was one more milestone date coming up, one more anniversary. In 3 days, it would be the 20th anniversary of the day I first put on the badge, the day I became a police officer. But I did not know who the next victim would be. I ran surveillance on Vance's last known address, a rundown apartment in the warehouse district. He was not there. The place was empty, except for more mirrors, dozens of them covering every wall, and in the center of the room, a map of the city with 5 locations marked. 4 were the previous crime scenes. The 5th was unmarked. I studied that map for hours. Where would he go? Who would he choose? The previous victims had no connection to each other except timing. Then it hit me. They were not connected to each other. They were connected to me. The college professor had taught a class I attended during my training. The nurse had treated me after I was injured on duty years ago. The retired police officer had been my first partner when I made detective, and the marketing executive had been the spokesperson for a charity I supported. They were all people from my life, people I had interacted with, but never suspected anyone would target. And the 5th victim, the final message. It had to be someone close to me, someone whose death would destroy me. Sarah Chen, my partner, my friend. The person who had been by my side through this entire nightmare. I called her. No answer. I called again. Nothing. I raced to her apartment. The door was unlocked. Inside, the lights were off, and in the center of her living room stood a tall, antique mirror with an ornate gold frame. But Sarah was not there. Instead, there was a note, written in that same familiar handwriting, written in blood. It said, "Look closer, detective. The killer was always in the reflection." And that is when I understood. That is when the entire case collapsed into a horrible truth. I turned to face the mirror, and in the reflection I saw myself. But it was not just my reflection. Behind me, in the shadows of the darkened apartment, stood someone else, someone who had been there the whole time. I spun around, and there she was, Sarah Chen, my partner, my friend, standing in the doorway with a knife in her hand and a smile that I had never seen before. She told me everything. How she had been Robert Vance's daughter, how she had changed her name and spent years climbing the ranks to become my partner, how every murder was her revenge for what I had done to her father, how she had watched me suffer and obsess and fall apart while she was right there beside me the entire time. The mirrors were not about the victims seeing their killer. They were about me seeing mine, about me finally recognizing that the person I trusted most was the monster I was hunting. She told me I had one choice. I could arrest her, and she would tell the world how the great detective Marcus Stone had been fooled by his own partner, how I had failed to see the truth even when it was standing right next to me. Or I could let her disappear. Let the case go cold. Let the mirror killer become an unsolved mystery. She said I had 60 seconds to decide. I looked at her. I looked at the mirror. And I made my choice. But that choice, that is a story for another time. I am Detective Marcus Stone, and some reflections show us truths we are not ready to face. Until next time, stay vigilant, because the monsters are always closer than you think.